Hey, today we are talking about splicing wires together, whether it's in a fridge, stove, dryer, or whatever. Splicing wires is kind of a frustrating thing to do as an appliance repair person because it requires a lot of accuracy or else you can have a lot of problems. And generally when people deal with splicing wires, there's always wire nuts, but I want to show you some different things that you can use that may work a little bit better or are a little bit easier to deal with as a homeowner. I have here a giant box, well, not really a giant box of different wire splicers. So let's go ahead and get this out. And I want to show you a few different types that we use at our shop. Generally, the first one anybody uses are these wire nuts. You simply put two wires in. Once they're stripped, now with a traditional wire nut, you just take your two stripped wires, you just put them into the hole, twist, and you're done. And you have a properly nutted wire here. And these generally work really well until sometimes you get into appliance repair or automotive where you may have less room and this big bulky cap won't work too well. Also, the amount of strength there, it can pop off. It did not take too much force to use. So sometimes what people use more often are these inline butt splicers. These typically take, unlike the wire nuts, specialty tools. So let's try it real quick. You just insert your wire here. You could use a pair of very strong pliers, but these are what they recommend. You use the right color coding. There's one side done now. You take the other wire. You're going to then crimp down with your $20 specialty set of pliers and hope that the connection's really good. And we use these fairly often. And you have now a much nicer, I guess I'd say prettier inline connection. Sometimes these work really tight, but unless you do them perfectly, they come apart really easily. And that took no effort at all on the one side. And the bigger problem here is this connection's now permanently damaged. I am not going to be able to splice this ever again. I'm going to have to get another connector out and do it better, and it takes a lot of practice. Now, we're going to use Posi Taps, which require no special tools. They have collars on each side that you just screw and unscrew, and that helps you lock the wire connection in to make it secure so you don't have to have any special tools. All I have to do is take the tap apart, put the collar on the wire, and you can see here it just goes on really easy. You twist the wire, put it into the post section as firm and as hard as you can. The jacket's in there pretty decent, and then all you do is screw it in. So I'm screwing the connection in, and now it's secure to that post. So we have one side done already. Going to take the collar for the second side, put it in, twist the wires just a little bit, push it into the post, and then work to screw it down. And mind you, this is probably not the right size for the wires. They have many different collars. But even with a wrong collar, wrong size, I'm still able to do it. Twist it down. So now I have this fully connected. I've used no special tools, and I have a very solid connection here. Simple pulling on is not pulling it apart. In order to actually rip it out, I have to use a lot more force than the wire nut and definitely the splicers, and I've used no tools. It's inline. It looks really, really good. And now that we've gone over the basics of, just connecting two wires, let's go into something far more difficult where you're needing to splice one wire into another wire. Here is a Samsung defrost heater. We do a lot of installations that require tapping into the line without disturbing anything. On this, we want to connect a new heater between these two brown wires, and these butt splicers that we used absolutely won't work. The wire nuts won't work. Nothing else would work. So what we're going to use are these Posi Taps and then eventually some Scotch locks just to show you how easy it is to tap these in without tools. So in order to tap into it, we're going to start with these blue Posi locks, which are just the right size for this wire. I'm going to put it in here. And again, we're not using any tools. Tapping it in. There is a little pin here, and what happens is when you screw the pin into the wire, it pierces the plastic jacket to the wire, creating an electrical connection. Now we got that done. And like the lock that we used just a few seconds ago, we're going to insert the wire into that post. We're going to go ahead and put the collar on like we just did on the lock. Once we have it inserted into the post, we're just going to screw it down like we did earlier. And now we have a totally spliced connection. The electricity is going to start through here. It's going to go through the heater, but it's also going to go through this secondary heater probe that we have. So we have one line done, and now all we have to do is the second line the exact same way, and then we have a brand new heater connection. Unscrewing this, and again, you see that there's this little U channel here. It goes over the wire like that. And then we take the peg with the little pin, place it in, screw it down as tight as you can. And it will only go to a certain tightness right around the unit. Take the collar off. Put the wire in. Take the collar. Put the collar over the wire. Screw it in, and now we have a perfectly set, although it looks a little bit messy, it looks way better in a fridge. We now have a fully spliced second heater into a primary heater. When we put electric through this, it's going to heat the whole assembly up. And I really like these Posi Taps in that I've had no tools. Most other ways to splice electric together requires all kinds of different tools, whether it's your more complex crimper or a multi-tool, any different thing. But with this, we were able to do it without anything at all other than possibly having to trim the plastic back from the wires. And in some cases, I've even used just a pair of scissors to do this. You don't need any special tools, which makes it amazing. The nice thing about the Posi Taps is they come in all kinds of different sizes. The Posi Taps go from very small up to ridiculously large, and they have a few different types. Some are like glorified wire nuts that you have a much more solid connection. It has that central post like a wire nut would. Put two wires in, clamp it down, and you're done. But we're mainly dealing with the splicing today, but they have a lot of different ones, and I'm not getting paid to say that we love them, but I use a lot of them. Once in a while I'll get a note from the packing staff that has SpongeBob on it or something, and they watch these videos and I get their replies, and it's really fun. But there's all kinds of different Posi Taps there are all kinds of different Posi Taps that are out there. By the time you make a mistake with a butt connector, these easily pay for themselves. They run about $1 to $2 US each, but the larger packs you buy, the more affordable they get. But this video isn't entirely just Posi Taps only. I wanted to show you another type of system that we use on refrigerators to splice them, and that is these 3M Scotch locks. We don't use these as much as we used to, but they work very well. They do require a little bit more care and maintenance. So with a Scotch lock, what you do is you open the lid up to where it exposes this entire side. You wrap it around wherever you're going to put your main line in. And the nice thing about this is it does have a sealant, so if you use it in a moist area, you don't have to worry about oxidation. It's in that line. I snap it on the side, and we now have one wire in. We will now take the secondary heater wire, and it can be inserted on either side of this. You don't actually need to cut the plastic on this and trim it back. That is one really nice thing about this. So I'm actually going to trim it to show you exactly what happens. So depending on the orientation, you need to take that into consideration. So I have that secondary wire in, and this little metal clip that's here needs pressed down, and what that's going to do is it's going to cut down into the wire connectors and make a more secure connection. So you do have to have something to crimp or press down on this, such as a multi-tool. And this can get a little bit more difficult compared to these compared to the Posi Taps, and that's why I definitely prefer the Posi Taps. So I press down on the connection. Sometimes you can just use this flap and secure it, but I've found oftentimes it doesn't work. Now it's locked in place, and it is not going to go anywhere. This was able to freely move before we put the metal clip to lock it into place, but now it simply will not move. And this is a really good connection. It's a little bit more inline. It's not as messy, but it is a little bit more difficult to work with, but super secure. So let's do it again on this other side here. I'm going to take the Scotch lock right here. We're going to open it up. Hopefully on camera you can see that. So now that we have the one side inserted, we're going to take our secondary heater wire, just simply plug it in, and then all we have to do is press down on this to get it to cut in. Again, this is where it's bad without tools, is I cannot press down on that and get it to work. I absolutely have to use some sort of other device to press down and crimp. It's crimped down. I was able to snap that on without any problems. And now we have the secondary heater. It's all connected. And this obviously fixes a $500 problem on the Samsung refrigerators. We sell a lot of these kits, and I thought it'd be good to kind of make this just in case anybody needed it. In the description, I will have a link to these Scotch locks. There are different color-coded sizes to this. These are, I think, the 804, which have the little sealant in them, which is really highly recommended. Definitely more partial to the Posi locks as they don't require any tools, but these are the top two ways that we fix any refrigerator at our shop. When it comes to stoves, dryers, we tend to use more of the Posi locks if needed, or wire nuts if it's really close to a dryer because of metal. But I hope this video helps you out to understand how to splice wires easily. I only had to use a tool in the background just to crimp these Scotch locks and none for the Posi locks. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope this video finds you well. Have a great day. By the way, Posi Lock should sponsor me with a bunch of free ones because we go through thousands of these every year.